Hello, good afternoon, and welcome. Welcome to this webinar. It's the first one of a series organized by D.E.I Publishing. My name is Silvia. I think you already know myself from last year, from the latest webinars. I'm very pleased to be here this afternoon. I would say this afternoon, but it could be good morning or good evening, depending on where you are based, because I know we got teachers globally based from all over the world, which is very, very nice and good. Before giving the floor to our dear speaker of today, Vicky, Vicky Bagheri, in a few seconds, I just wanted to share with you just some technical information, just for you to follow better this webinar and to get the most out of it. So the first thing is that this session is live. It consists of 45 minutes of the live workshop, plus about 10-15 minutes of questions and answers. Feel free to write down any comments and questions you might have in the chat box. There's a chat. You can start typing in from now on. I will be monitoring this chat box. The only thing I really need to let you know is that you won't be able to see the other participants' chat or messages, so you feel, I don't know, you will feel you are on your own, but you are not. We are all together. I'm here anyway. You just can't see the others, participants' comments, okay? But start now saying where you are based, and I will be very happy. And any questions, I will be here. And then my suggestion also, seize the moment. You go here, a special teacher, a special trainer. So ask her as many questions you like, and she will be able to to answer to some of them, maybe not to hundreds of questions, but to some of them at the end of the session. It's a very good moment, I think, to share also your experience and her experience, definitely. This live webinar will be recorded, so for your colleagues or for you, if you want to re-watch it in another moment, you will be aware when the recording will be available by following us on Facebook. Just remember to follow us on D.E.I Publishing social media, Facebook or Instagram as well. Actually, we opened this new page just a few weeks ago. Make sure to follow us. And another important tool is that you will be receiving the certificate plus a survey, a feedback form to fill in. The certificate will be sent to you in a PDF format tomorrow evening by email. Check your email, okay? And another important, actually, last but not least, before the end of the session, I would suggest you to download the PDF of this. I'm sure it will be a fantastic and practical presentation. Our kind, trainer, speaker has put together a PDF for you with all the tips that it can be useful for your archive, for your study, for you in a second moment to get back and say, okay, this is what she meant. Remember to do it before the end of the live session, okay? So that's all by me. Actually, I've already, wasted too much of your time. I'm very, very pleased now to give the floor to Vicky with this speech about teaching for tomorrow, engaging global learners with Ready for Planet English. Thank you, Vicky, and enjoy the session.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. Hi, everyone. I hope you're well and having a lovely afternoon, evening, and Sylvia said maybe a good morning to wherever you're based. And many thanks for joining today's webinar. I hope we can take away some fresh, practical, and engaging ideas to apply in our classroom by the end of this session. So there are 3 sections in this webinar. We'll kick off by project-based learning and the impact of it on ELT. Then we will have a look at cross-cultural activities and how to implement them in our classroom. And finally, we will focus on embedding diversity, equity, and inclusion in our lesson planning. I've used adult coursebook Ready for Planet English by D.E.I Publishing to showcase the methodology, and I will give some practical activities and strategy to apply this methodology in the classroom. And as Sylvia mentioned, we will finish the session with a QA. So to start with, I want to have some sort of interactivity in this session. I know we're not able to see each other's chat, but we've got Sylvia's in the background that she can make that connection happen. There are 4 questions which Sylvia will pop them in the poll during the webinar, and I would appreciate your responses to them as I am working on a case study on integrating this methodology in the ELT classroom, so I appreciate your responses. Let's start with project-based learning. I would love to know if you have whether applied this approach in your classroom, and if you have, what challenges you have been faced with, and if this is one of your favorite approaches, what are the outcomes? I will give a couple of minutes to you to share your answers in the chat and to Sylvia to read them out. So, have you ever used this approach in your classes? And if you did, what challenges you have been faced with? And if this is one of your favorite approaches, what are the outcomes? Please take your time, give me short answers so we can have some understanding of where we are and what we're doing with this first approach.
Okay, Vicky, shall I launch the first poll or shall we wait? Sorry.
No, if you just wait for the teachers to just type your answers to see where they are. You can pop the first one as well. That would be great. No problem at all.
Okay, I think if I launch it will be much clearer for the teachers, I think, to get answer. Okay, is that okay?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, can you all see the poll? I think, okay, they're voting, I can see that. Can you see the answers, Vicky, or shall I?
No, that's fine, yeah.
Let's wait for a few seconds anyway. Okay, for some teachers, this is D, so new. For another teacher, for example, Rob says he loves using it, but it's a little bit of a challenge when it's online and it's one-to-one for one-to-one lesson.
Okay.
So I can see, you know, we got about 20% is very confident, 37% is somewhat confident. I've tried a few times, and 36 not very confident, and just about 8% not at all.
Okay, that's quite percentage. Okay, thank you very much, Sylvia. Thanks.
No worries.
Yes, so let's just start with understanding what is project-based learning in the first place. So it is a teaching method where students actively engage in learning by working on extended projects that involve researching, involve solving questions and problems, and also producing a tangible outcome. Let's compare 2 different classrooms together. The traditional one, which teachers lead most of the instruction and students passively absorb information. The learning process is quite slow and it doesn't meet student or our expectations. I can say very frustrating approach. On the other hand, by integrating technology into our classroom, the focus shifts to a learner-centered approach in which a student take an active role in their learning, allowing them to collaborate on real-world projects and promoting critical thinking and problem solving, a dynamic approach. So you might ask, okay, instead of traditional grammar lesson, what can we do? The short answer is to give them a project. And here, for example, student done a project based on preparing a travel guide for a country where the target language is spoken. They've done a research about the country. They can do they write articles, create map, or sometimes some proactive students prepare PowerPoint presentations. These are a couple of examples that students did for travel guide project. Project-based learning doesn't mean that teachers stop teaching, if you're concerned about that. It simply shifts the teacher's role. In traditional setting, we might take on one direct instructional role, but in project-based learning, we act more as a facilitators or guides. We set a stage by designing a meaningful real-world project that helps students develop language skills through active learning. And instead of lecturing or drilling the language points, in project-based learning, we encourage a student to take ownership of their own learning. And this doesn't mean that the teacher is not teaching, but rather that teaching happens through guided inquiry, providing support, scaffolding, and helping students to reflect on their progress. Actually, the teacher is very much involved, but focus is on fostering independence, communicative, critical thinking skills, and making learning process more student-centered. But how we can implement project-based learning into our classroom? I've divided this process into two major parts. One focuses on a student and the other focuses on us, teachers, educators, and school owners. First thing first, we need to make sure that students understand how the project relates to their language learning objectives. We need to encourage them to integrate their own learning experiences or perspectives into the project, making learning more relevant, more meaningful. And then we can encourage them to use the new vocabulary, basically structures they've just learned, give them some guidance on using the language appropriately in the classes, in the context, and make sure they are developing their language skills throughout the project. We can include criteria which helps a student to understand what is required for success, and also connect project into real life situation that resonate with the students, making learning process more engaging and also impactful. And while it is important to stick to our schedules, allow for some flexibility based on student progress and needs. This encourages a more personalized learning experience. When we ask a student to provide constructive feedback on each other's work, this fosters a supportive learning environment and helps them to critique work respectfully and thoughtfully. We can also invite people from different backgrounds and to contribute into projects, so providing students with insight and authentic language and use in a various contexts. And if you're saying, or the physical person is not available, we can always use video, so we can read articles from people with a different backgrounds into the student to give them that, idea. And if project-based learning apply correctly into the classes, implemented correctly, the outcomes are valuable. It enhances language acquisition, which is promote the collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. And it is also create a rich and meaningful experiences for both students and for us as well in the classes. Your next question might be, okay, I got it, Vicky, but we need to make sure that academic content and the language learning are accessible, practical, and engaging. Let me break it down into how to approach it effectively. Simplify the language. Present instructions and the content in a simpler, clearer language without sacrificing the key concepts. Using sentence frames, vocabulary lists, or bilingual resources to support understanding. Diagram, charts, mind maps help students progress the complex ideas visually. Break down the project into smaller, digestible steps to help students focus on one task at a time and the content doesn't become too overwhelming. Flexibility and individualized approaches always allow students to learn at their own pace and according to their ability. We can offer varying level of challenge within the project so that all the learners can participate meaningfully. For example, some students may focus more on more straightforward tasks like labeling, visualize, while others tackle more with the complex writing or presentations. We need to encourage the student to present their finding in different ways, like posters, videos, presentation, writing, even a paragraph, rather than what we prefer to see from students, or what is easier for me as a teacher to give them a feedback, the easiest way. We need to allow them to express their ideas in a mode that matches their language level. And also allow more time to students, to give them more time to completely specific project components, particularly those that involve reading and writing, to make sure quality learning without overwhelming them. And it is also promote discussion in our classes. Dialogue and interactions are key to develop language skills, and project-based learning provide a rich environment for this, like collaborative learning. We can organize a student into mixed ability groups where slow learners and the fluent ones can have a dialogue. Peer interactions help students practice language skills naturally and supports comprehension. Or we can give them some structured discussion, giving them discussion questions or providing some sentence stems to guide the conversation, helping students feel more confident contributing to the group discussions. Or as a facilitator, we can engage with student one-on-one or in a small group, give them those targeted feedback, asking some questions to deepen their understanding and the language use. And after the key stages of the project, it's always great to hold a class discussion to allow students to reflect on their learning, ask the students and exchange the ideas. And this fosters not only language development, but also critical thinking. Sylvia, if you don't mind, can you pop the second poll for us? The second question, thank you.
Sure, by all means. Okay. Here you go. Okay, dear teachers, you can start, voting. They can express their preference. Okay, they're starting writing their preferences. Let's wait for a few seconds. I can already spot the trend, I would say, in terms of answers, but let's wait for a few more seconds. Okay, yes, there's okay, like us, the first answer is lack of time, lack of time to explore cultural topics. There's always this issue about lack of time, I think.
Yes.
And then the second answer in terms of percentage is engaging students in meaningful discussions.
Mm-hmm.
The third one with the 25% is finding suitable materials and resources. And the last one with about 11% in ensuring cultural sensitivity and avoiding stereotypes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. So I have prepared 3 activities that can be done in the classes using project-based learning, and then we will focus on the cross-cultural activities as well. So this is a very practical activity, requires a bit of preparation for teachers, and obviously that preparation comes from to make sure a student knows the right content that we are going to ask them to do the project based on them. For example, here the student is supposed to create a cultural festival event for English-speaking tourists. So my job is to make sure that they have a relevant vocabulary related to festival, tourism, and event planning, and some of the grammar that they have learned previously, so I can ask them to make sure they include those grammars in their presentations, PowerPoint, infographic, however they would love to present it. And then the student would do the work. They would do the research about the festival, if they are going to do it locally, about their countries, that they can interview locals like family, friends. They can always do a good research online and then come up with their findings. And if you think, or if you think, Vicky, we don't have time to prep, then I would suggest to use Ready for Planet English, which provides these activities within the unit. I've used Unit 3, 8 and 10 from this book if you're currently using it, so maybe you can apply them in your classes. And these activities that I'm going to present is not necessarily based on this book, but this course just makes the job a bit easier and it saves us time because everything is there, the activities are there. So one of the key one of the unit's key activity is the big question. So to start a project-based learning, it's always better to have a question for a student. So here, for example, would you like to live in a co-housing community? What are the advantages and disadvantages? So this question encourages students to do the research, to debate and ultimately create their own sustainable community model. It encourages students' autonomy in researching sustainable housing. It also promotes cross-curricular learning like geography, environmental science and social studies, and it has real-world application of persuasive language and presentation skills. I'm not reading the how to use in the classes. Hopefully you can have a look and then I can add some points to that. Or this one, the unit starts with the quiz. So we can start the project by giving them a quiz. Quiz is personalized learning. It personalizes the learning by student access their own habits and take actions. It has that real world impact when a student purpose the practical solutions for sustainability, and it is also developed the persuasive writing and critical thinking. So in this case, the student will do the quiz first. So you kind of have their ideas and they know the other classmates' perspectives. They will do a little research later on based on, zero waste challenges, a school garden proposal, or however they feel more confident to contribute to the project. And finally, you ask them about the output, which would be them creating that project for you, which could be done, as I said, in any way they would prefer to do. Okay, now let's have a look at cross-cultural activities. But let's talk a little bit about it. Cultures have widely differing characteristics, and misunderstanding are likely to occur between members of different cultures. Intercultural communicative competence is the ability to communicate effectively and appropriately with the people from other language and cultural backgrounds. English is a global language, and our student will interact with people from all around the world. By integrating cross-cultural activities into our lesson, we can help the student to develop cultural agility, empathy, global perspective, rather than avoiding cultural stereotypes. And this is where culture shock happens. For some people, culture shock can be brief and hardly noticeable. For others, it brings intense physical and emotional discomfort. Though it is inevitable, it can be managed or overcome with conscious awareness of one's own reactions. And to put it in a nutshell, cross-cultural learning is matter because it reduces the risk of miscommunication. It is not just about teaching language, it is about preparing students to navigate the complexity of the globalized world by fostering an understanding of diverse cultural perspectives. And to overcome culture shock, it is vital to understand other cultures, to indulge in healthy interactions for the well-being of in the individual. And one goes through the cycle of the adjustment in a new culture, one's understanding and knowledge of the host country increases. Let's have a look at some activities now. So one of the most impactful elements of this unit is drag students' attention to WWF, World Wildlife Funding's Living Planet report, which is we can incorporate it in our syllabus as well. This is not something particularly based in this unit, but it highlights the decline of animal populations globally. And this is a fantastic opportunity for students to compare conservation efforts across different cultures and how we can implement it in the classes. We introduce the question, for example, which animals are at risk in your country? What can we do to change this? And then we compare that conservation strategy by students doing the research on the wildlife protection efforts in the different countries. And then they can do the cross-cultural debate. The group discussion based on the effectiveness of various approaches and suggest the improvements. And then they can create their creative output. There could be a video, infographic, or blog post or on global conservation efforts. And why this works? Because it encourages critical thinking about global issues. It helps students appreciate different cultural perspectives and has trained the research and collaboration and presentation skills. Or we can give them a pair activity. So this is a very interesting topic. I didn't know before come across this unit. So this is based on local innovation. So we can ask students to think of a local invention or practice influenced by the country's wildlife. How does, for example, technology differ across cultures? Or how is public transport designed differently in Japan versus Europe versus Latin America? We can show how different cultures innovate based on their environment if we apply the approach in the classes like this way. If it also promotes discussion on the global contribution to the technology as well, and it connects language learning with sustainability topics. Or when we have a video lesson, when we want to show them a video, we can do it a little bit different. For example, here the video is based on climate heroes, young people from different countries solving climate issues. So we can have a student to have that discussion. How does climate action differ between countries? What cultural values influences influence environmental responsibilities? In this way, we can highlight the global solutions to environmental problems. It encourages cross-cultural discussions on sustainability and also provides a real-world application for learning English. And for grammar lessons, this is another activity. So the traditional grammar lessons often feel disconnected from real-world application, making it difficult for students to stay engaged. But by integrating cross-cultural activities, for example, here the unit grammar is based on comparative and superlative adjectives. So we can make learning more meaningful and interactive. We can give them some sentence starters like the Amazon rainforest is the largest in the world, while the Congo rainforest is something. Or give them a question, which country has the most diverse wildlife? So rather than completing mechanical exercises, it connects them to the world around them. We can modify the grammar activity so students compare wildlife in different countries, and the lesson become more interactive and meaningful. And if you think or asking why it works, it teaches useful language and instructions for describing the word, but in a relevant way. It encourages cross-cultural comparison, helping the student to develop global awareness, making grammar more engaging and meaningful by connecting them to the real-world knowledge and discussion. So by modifying the traditional grammar lesson in this way, students not only learn comparative and superlative grammar, but also engage in an active learning, research, discussion, making language learning dynamic and purposeful. So I hope you have grabbed some practical ideas so far. Sylvia, if you don't mind to put the next full question for us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can you read it? Can you all see it? Yeah. So how do you currently address diversity, equity, and inclusion in your lessons? I can see teachers are voting. We have a very active audience, very pleased about that.
That's fantastic.
Different answers here. I can see the percentage keeps on changing. They're very interesting. Let's wait for another few seconds. Okay, so the answer winning, the winning answer is the B. So I promote open discussions about identity and cultural, etc., with a 41%. Then we have got the D. Haven't focused much on DEI, but would like to start. Then A, I actively incorporate diverse voices and perspectives, etc. And then C, with about 10% in the last answer.
Thank you very much. That's great. Okay. So, diversity, equity, and inclusion are crucial components of a healthy school culture. Embedding diversity, equity, and inclusion in English language teaching is about to make sure that all students feel seen, valued, and heard. A truly inclusive classroom recognizes and respects diverse backgrounds, identities, and abilities. Diversity, equity, and inclusion also helps to foster a sense of community and belonging, which is essential for student success. And when students feel safe and supported, they feel that they can achieve anything. But implementing DEI in the schools can be challenging. One of the primary challenges is to facilitate the shift from equality to equity. So this means that for opportunity to be truly equal, the individuals within the system may all require something slightly different, be that support tools, nuisance language, or different teaching methods, or simply more time. Equality, offering everyone the same in order to level the playing field, is not same as equity. And the second challenge is to change the narrative around normal and different. But what is normal anyway? What constitutes difference? For the most part, different is down to subjective opinion, I believe. Perhaps the most important characteristics of being human is our individuality. So the first step is to abandon any preconceptions of what is normal, and we need to do the same thing with disability. Even less able has a negative connotations, which is, again, we must abandon in order to be truly inclusive. And the third challenge is to consciously teach inclusivity and counter embedded social attitudes when children enter the education system from primary school onwards. If we are to create a necessary and integral change in a society, we must start here at the beginning by acknowledging and challenging the social contracts that perpetuate the discrimination and ensure our education system teaches core values in instill awareness and consideration and respect for others. And creating a truly inclusive classroom starts with ensuring that learning material reflect a diverse range of cultural perspectives, and by integrating texts, case studies, or real-world examples that show different backgrounds and experience and identities, students see themselves, see others present in a meaningful way. And it encourages the student to share their own cultural experiences, further enrich the classroom environment, fostering a sense of belonging and mutual respect. And pair and the group discussions provide an opportunity for learners to engage with different viewpoints, compare cultural traditions, and reflect on how language connects to identity. And these discussions help students to develop intercultural awareness, challenge stereotype, and practice open mind communication. And by using these strategies in the classes, We not only support students' linguistic development, but also nurture critical thinking and cultural empathy, which are essential skills in today's global society. Let's have a look at activity. To be honest, I can talk about this topic for hours. So this activity helps students to explore the impact of studying and working internationally. So the unit starts with a little short paragraph. So we normally start with a paragraph, share the paragraph with the student, reading it, about this lady, for example, here, her experience studying abroad and working on a global project. So the student can reflect on the role of cultural exchange in a personal and professional growth. The discussion about the concept of brain drain, where students leave their home countries for better opportunities, encourage learners to think critically about how this impacts the education system and innovation globally can happen in these sessions. And to deepen the engagement, students can participate in the pair work activity, which gives them here more questions where they can discuss their aspirations, which allows students to share their ambitions while practicing their discussion skills in a meaningful context. And if you would like to extend it, as an extension, student can do a research on a career or a field they are interested in and analyze how cultural diversity contributes to innovation in that profession. And they can then present their finding discussing how the inclusion of the diverse perspective leads to a better problem solving and creativity. And the final output could be a written reflection or a class podcast on how embracing diversity in education and the workplace foster progress and innovation. And why this works? Because it helps students to appreciate the values of diverse perspectives, connects language learning with real-world aspirations, and encourages students to explore international opportunities and cultural exchanges. Or we can do another activity, which this one is based on inclusion in economic and social change. So but then you can apply it in two different ways. You can use the speaking, have it speaking sessions, or combine and ask them in terms of output to do the writing part. So this activity encourages entrepreneurial thinking with a social purpose. Make inclusion more than just a discussion. You know, it turns it into action. It develops persuasive writing. It helps with the speaking and collaboration skills. So you can start it with dragging their attention or give them a question, have they ever heard about crowdfunding, and then carry on with the next steps of the process in the classes. Or we can facilitate the class debate. Give them again questions. So for example, in this unit, the focus is on global products. So the question would be, does globalization strengthen or weaken the cultural identity? Or we can start with the vocabulary part. Focus on the terms, make sure they understand, and then ask them to create an infographic or presentation comparing the culture's impact of a global versus the local product. And why this works? Because it encourages students to reflect on cultural identity and diversity. It promotes critical thinking about globalization and its effects. And also, it connects students' personal experiences to a larger global returns. And another activity which works for both cross-cultural and DEI in the classes, we can use storytelling on identity and culture. I'll put digital in the bracket if you don't like, so they can write it down on a paper, which is a powerful tool in English language classroom because it encourages students to engage with language in a deeply personal and meaningful way by creating a digital or on a paper a story about their cultural heritage. Students are not only using language for self-expression, but also building that confidence in their ability to communicate in complex ideas. It also encourages them to incorporate family traditions, festivals, personal experiences that allow them to make connections between their own identity and the wider world, and also fostering a sense of belonging and cross-cultural appreciation as well. And also, as a last point, by beyond the language development, digital storytelling also plays a crucial role in fostering empathy and intercultural awareness. As students share and listen to each other's stories, they gain insight into diverse perspectives, challenging stereotype and broaden their understanding of the different cultures. And this creates a more inclusive and supportive classroom environment where students learn to appreciate the richness of the global diversity. And integrating digital storytelling in our classes, it helps us to provide a student with a meaningful way to develop their language skills. We're also equipping them with cultural competency needed for global communication. And this type of activities works because it enhances creative language production, it builds empathy and cross-cultural awareness, and also gives students a platform for personal expression in English, obviously. So if you would like, we can carry on with Q&A, and I have the references, and also this is my contact data. If you would like to reach out, I would appreciate it, so to share our perspective on the subjects. And Sylvia, if you don't mind, can you pop the last full question for us, please? Thank you.
By all means, sure. Okay, let's launch the last poll. Thank you for your session. We have almost reached the end of the session, and we wait for the answer from our teachers to this specific question, and then if they got any other comments and questions they'd like to ask you. So, dear teachers, just feel free to write down in the chat box. Thank you, Santiago. Thank you. I can already read very positive comments on the session and on your presentation. Okay. Okay, I can see that, you know, the most popular answer is the D, so a combination of all three approaches.
Yes.
Then B, cross-cultural activities, then A, and last one is C, DEI strategies. And I can read, you know, I can read for you, Vicky, some comments from teachers say that, yes, the main issue is, as usual, timing. So questions about time, lack of time, and then to combine all the projects together. Maybe they can apply one project per term and not all, not very frequently. I can see this is the main issue from many comments I'm reading.
At one point, when we're talking about the project, yes, sometimes for students, the concept of project is something that we are going to put together. It requires a lot of time and preparation, but you actually can do this one session by session, class by class. It doesn't require to be a huge type of projects that they took their time and they need to be fantastic. I personally use this one in my adult classes in order to just change the view that they have and the way that they used to learn English a bit different, because in this way you have more interactive sessions, you have more interactive classes. If you do it online, the session is fantastic. If you have student classes, they're more interactive because they can resonate with the situations, with the topics, and they feel valued because that's their opinion, that's their personal opinion into the subject, rather than something that the book says, and this is what we have to do, and do those drilling language parts and the grammar and everything else. And they learn grammar much easier this way, rather than going through what a standard version of teaching would suggest to do. And that's my personal experience on the projects here.
Thank you. I can see some questions coming in, actually many questions. Shall I start with the first one, Vicky? So thanks, Professor Rob. I've got this question. How do you deal with teaching inclusivity in societies that aren't inclusive? Might be a little bit tricky, I think. Maybe, we are going beyond, I think, the material we're using here is a little bit more difficult, I think.
Could you please read the question out for me again?
So how do you deal with teaching inclusivity in society that aren't very inclusive, where, for example, it's not, I don't know, it's not popular to talk about, gender equality, equity, or this sort of.
I completely understand, and I worked before in some countries that it was very difficult, to address this type of major aspect of teaching as well, because it's not all about teaching English, but help them with the other aspect of the culture. I personally wouldn't touch those sensitive topics because I want to keep my job, but I can focus on other aspects and some global issues. Maybe I would switch it to other aspect, plant some seed, and then let them to figure out it themselves, and allow students to bring it to the classes rather than I address it that way, because I know it's not all about getting it right, but you need to have that environment, you need to have that atmosphere to be able to bring it up and discuss it with students and not having negative feedback or any criticizes afterwards. Yeah, that's what I would be able to say at this point, to be honest.
Thank you. Then I've got another question, which is, how can we encourage the students to produce language outside the classroom in real world situation? For example, this teacher says, my students or some of my students are very shy.
So one of the techniques that I always use for shy students, or the ones that they don't feel confident when they want to speak English, or they think, I know the grammar, but I don't know where to use it correctly, is to ask them to record themselves. And in order to give them a feedback, I would say, this is a confidential thing, so you can record it and then you can send it to me directly. I would not share it in the class. So then they start to record very simple sentences, and then I would ask them to increase it to the short paragraph, describe something about themselves, and then change the topic. And that way they would have that confidence to speak in the classes. And based on what they prepared or what they have done for me with the recording, I would ask those questions in class so they already know the answers, so they are kind of ready to talk. And once they give the answers, they have that confidence and they like to participate in the future topics in the classes. That's how I overcome that challenges in my classes.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, what do you suggest? So this is from a teacher from Santiago, I think. What do you suggest to improve the language fluency in a student? Maybe one specific activity, one specific tip you'd like to suggest?
In language, can you say that again? In the language?
Yes, sorry, fluency.
Fluency in the language. I would not suggest memorizing the vocabulary, memorizing the phrasing, because that's not how I learned, you know, the language. It's something that we have to always make sure the student kind of stay away from standard English and do a bit real world English with them. But if they travel to UK, if they come here, we would not use those type of stereotype sentences or cliche sentences. So I would suggest to work with them based on more phrases and use them in the classes. The more I, as a teacher, use them in the classes, the more easy it becomes for them to understand how to use those phrases in basically particular situations. And also, I guess listening would be another thing I would suggest to do. Give them as much as listening as you can, and sometimes it doesn't need to relate to the subject what you're teaching, but they can have a self-study and just listen to them and make their ears more familiar with different accents and different phrases and words that they would possibly be using in the real world, basically.
Thank you. Thank you, Vicky. So many questions, are very interesting questions, actually. I've got another one from Diego. So in your experience, Vicky, does the language proficiency of students influence the project-based learning activities? So the more, I don't know, you know the language, the better you can actually, you know, put into practices.
No, not necessarily. You can apply project-based learning in A2 level classes or mixed ability classes. If you have mixed level classes, like, because that's would be the most of the case, we cannot separate the student and say A1 level in this class, B2 level that class. They always mix, and then we can use that to our advantage and help the slow learner with a fluent one in English sit together and do the project together. The level of the challenges you gave in the project vary to the student's level. So for example, if in B2 level group of students, I would ask them to do a presentation or do a little debate in my classes, and take a little bit simpler in the other group. I would start using more visualized graph diagrams to make it more practical for them to understand, rather than, you know, like kind of labeling the visualize for the lower levels, and when it goes to the higher or the advanced level, so they would do more complex tasks in the classes, do the writing, do the presentation, you know. So it depends what the outcome or which outcome you would like to take from the classes. If the class is a speaking class, so the level of the vocabulary you gave to this group and that group should vary. Both of them on the same topic, but in the different levels, and so on for the other basically skills.
Okay, thank you. I think we have reached the end of this beautiful workshop. Thank you so much, Vicky. It has been a very practical, very inspiring workshop, and I can see that also from the many questions, comments, and, you know, very useful, I would say, very interesting questions for you. And so thank you, and thank all our teachers who have, you know, stay with us until the end. I just wanted to remind them to download the PDF now, because when I close this, you know, platform, it won't be possible anymore. So it would be a shame to miss this useful PDF, I would say. And I definitely wait for you next week with our second appointment webinar with Nina Loader, again next Wednesday. So make sure to follow us. All information on our website, elipublishing.com, or on our social media. And this is it, I think. That's it.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for your collaboration and help. Have a lovely afternoon, evening, or wherever you are in the world. And yeah, hope to see you soon.
Speak to you soon. See you soon. Thank you. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you all. Bye-bye.